everyone, welcome to Ad America. Woo! My name is Aninda, one of the guests here in Ad America, and I would like to welcome everyone who are joining us here. Welcome to Ad America, and also our friends joining us online from various social media. We hope you are doing well and staying safe at home. If you're new here, Ad America is the U.S. Embassy's American Center, and our mission is to provide a space for young Indonesians to learn about the United States. On this event, we'll be talking about a thing that everyone is talking about your career in money, hot financial technology jobs. But before we get started, we're going to have a trivia. The question is an area in South San Francisco that is home to dozens of major technology companies is called, is it A, National Mall, B, Silicon Valley, C, Times Square, or D, the Chicago Loop? Let us know your answer on our social media because in the end of the event, we'll do a live shout out for those of you who can guess the answer correctly. Other than that, feel free to take a selfie and tag our Instagram account. Without further ado, I'll pass the floor to our moderator. She is a co founder of Durian Pay. Please welcome Natasha Ardiani.
Hello, hi. Thanks everyone for being here physically or online. My name is Natasha, co-founder and CEO of Dorian Pay, which is a B2B payment platforms that helps businesses accept and send payments. Prior to Dorian Pay, I was at OVO covering strategy and lending. And prior to that, I started my fintech journey around 6 years ago at Shopee, where I launched Shopee Pay and Shopee Pay later. So before we start, I'd like to thank Ed America for hosting this event and to Aftech, our event partner, as one of the largest fintech association in Indonesia. And today's event is held to provide insights to fresh grads and also early job seekers regarding working in fintech, what type of roles there are, several fintech trends in the US that translate to Indonesia market, skill sets needed, and what should be expected overall in working in fintech. So my friends, don't forget to listen and ask many questions. I think Ed America has provided Mentimeter link for you to ask questions online. Without further ado, I'd like to then do some quick run of intros for my friends here on the left-hand side, also the speakers for today. Maybe I should go from Agnes, my left-hand side. Hi, Agnes. Agnes is co-founder of Wiz, which is the first money management app for kids, teens, teenagers, and parents in Indonesia. So prior to that, Agnes was VP Growth at OVO, which is an e-money or e-wallets company, and was a management consultant with the BCG. And left to Agnes, there's Fandi. Fandi here is a partner at Kenangan Capital, an angel investment fund created by Kenangan Brand's co-founders. Fandi is also an angel investor in the Capital Network for startup founders and executives from GoTo, Bukalapak, Ayo Connect to Stockbit. So, essentially, if you're an aspiring founders, you know where to find him. All right, so maybe I'd like to start the discussion from Fandi. I think maybe we should cover the landscape first, right? You as an investor, probably the best suited to elaborate on the overall fintech landscape. Is fintech overall still a promising sector given like what's been happening the past 6 to 9 months?
Well, I think fintech will always be an interesting sector because there's so much room to digitalize in fintech from lending. Fintech encompasses like other even crypto and there's also credit cards. Credit card penetration rate in Indonesia is still really low. And also, let's not forget investments. Investments like invest investment app like Ajaib, Stockbit. I think there's a lot of room to penetrate still.
Okay, so essentially, it's still a very promising job overall, yeah. And maybe like moving to Agnes here, what made you, jump to fintech from consulting? Was it like a coincidence? Was it like something that you've been looking to, or like intentionally enter, or like how is it like for you?
So while I was at BCG as management consultant, I cover a lot of financial institutions, and that means retail banks, right? The brand names that we have always heard about. And with what I really saw was that I think banks today in Indonesia are barely scratching the surface. Like there are so many underbanked or unbanked populations we have yet to cover, and there's limitations for a retail banks with a legacy system to actually go reach out to those folks, right? And fintech actually comes in with, you know, bringing in the new technology to cover more people to make financial service just more accessible to more people, right? So I think definitely that space has always caught my attention. So after leaving BCG, I actually joined Ovo straight. Like I knew I wanted to be in fintech because I know like that's gonna be the next big thing. Given the like Fandi mentioned, right? The penetration, credit card penetration rate is low. The banking penetration is actually still low in this part of the world, right? So that's that's what got me excited about fintech. And fintech on its own is a broad term. I mean, it encompasses payment, banking, investment. There's so many areas where you can look at, and that's where we choose to, start at OVO and then now move on to WIS.
By the way, ini kita boleh bahasanya campur-campur ya.
Okay.
Mungkin nanti buat audience yang gabung sama kita online, boleh juga kalau mau tanya bahasa Indonesia atau bahasa Inggris, jadi bebas aja. So, touching upon what you said tadi ya, jadi kayak opportunity-nya gede karena banyak underbank, unbank. Bedanya apa sih? Terus kenapa kok, di Indonesia tuh people always say like, okay, big population, blah 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 blah. So what historically that banks belum bisa lakukan yang fintech sekiranya bisa gitu?
I would say probably distribution, like retail banks operate in a branch network model, meaning like if I want to serve people in like the, let's say, more rural areas of Indonesia, that requires me to open a branch and then serve these people, right? But with technology, pretty much today's smartphone penetration rate in Indonesia is pretty high. That means that as long as my ads or like word of mouth gets to those people, they are able to instantly open an account within 2 minutes, right? For any digital bank today, like 2 minutes is all you need, and KTP, that's all.
True, true. I think all of this tech ecosystem that has been shaping in Indonesia, people would likely to have a pay later account rather than credit card gitu ya. Jadi kayak mau beli tiket pesawat, mau belanja, mau beli makanan, they can have like all these type of pay laters. Okay, so in terms of fintech trends gitu ya di US gitu. Kenapa sih kayak Wiz itu kan I feel like it's also inspired by some pretty similar business model di US ya. Tadi kan as Fandi juga said fintech tuh banyak banget loh banking, payment ini. So I think for the curious audience gitu yang di rumah kayak gimana ya cara cara tahu kayak sebenarnya apa aja sih coveragenya terus bisa ada role apa aja where they should start gitu.
You mean where does?
Yeah, where they should start kayak because gini kan, fintech is very prevalent, tapi nggak ada kayak say mata kuliah gitu ya, yang benar-benar kayak ini fintech 101. You have accounting 101, you have whatever architecture 101, you don't have fintech 101 when like it encompasses your everyday's life gitu. Jadi kalau misalnya ada yang pengen kayak cari tahu sebenarnya nanti when I graduate like where can I apply, what role is best suited for me, like how do you any tips for the early job seekers and like fresh grads out there watching?
Well, I guess a bit of a personal story. I wasn't actually in fintech. I didn't actually major in finance, for example, right? I guess in school I majored in psychology, but I ended up being an investor, especially for Kenangan Capital, just cause after graduating, I realized that the industry is really interesting, and I learned a lot of things myself, and I did a lot of self deduction because I met a lot of professionals from the capital market. I think the most important thing is just to get yourself out there and learn from people and being open, because there's I guess fintech and application is very different compared to like actually what you learn in school. I think being able to apply it to real life is a more important, I guess.
Maybe from Agnes.
Yeah, I would agree. Like I think there's no specific subject, but I think if you look at the grander scheme of things, I mean, fintech must cover some kind of technology. So like at least look out for subjects that are, relevant, or at least its applications will be applicable to the technology itself. Like for example, there's a lot of AI, machine learning stuff. So those are probably useful. As a tech company, programmers are always like a role in demand. Data, as a tech company, we process a lot of information with regards to users' behaviors, with regards to users' transactional data. Like so, those are all like probably data related roles. But I would second Fandi, really just go out there, meet people, understand what do each roles entail, and at least meeting people who have walked down your path will give you like a better light rather than just reading up online, I guess.
Yeah, well, can't agree more. So I think uh, other than that, mungkin juga some info for the audience ya. Kayak fintech actually, it's like such a jargon or like such a
Yeah.
like a hip word or whatever, right? But actually, as you said, right, it's related to accounting, it's related to data. If you're a payment company, you need to know that like payment in, payment out has to tally, the ledger has to tally, and that's accounting, right? And there's data related, like user data management, and there's also AML, right, for payments, lending, blah blah. There's also AML, risk related, compliance, right? Jadi I think some info juga buat kayak mungkin penonton yang di rumah atau online, banyak banget misalnya kayak they graduate from civil engineering, psychology lah, apa yang tiba-tiba nanti jadi misalnya legal, bukan legal lah, jadi compliance gitu, jadi risk atau jadi KYC analyst atau jadi data protection apa gitu. So I think from my personal experience, I've been working in the industry for 6 years. There's no such thing as um, apa ya, like your career doesn't have to be super linear anymore, right? So it's not like you get to work like 15 years in banking, then you enter a payment company, then you enter a lending. It's not like that, right? Um, so maybe like looking back at the so, like now that you know like fintech is like where it is today in Indonesia, what would have you done differently in the early years of like your career, if any? If any, is that such a loaded question?
Things that require reflection does.
Yeah, because I think that would help also the audience at home kan. Kayak apa ya, misalnya dulu oh maybe I should have like followed this blog early on so then I'm more acute and more aware of these like all fintech trends. Terus kayak mungkin sekarang banyak kasus, I mean like apa ya, overall tech lagi downward trend kan. That's something that is like happening across the globe gitu. Jadi mungkin banyak yang kayak khawatir, should I just like go apply to work in a I don't know, elsewhere yang mungkin bukan technology company yang lebih stable and such stuff like that. So maybe any views regarding that gitu yang bisa jadi insights for the audience.
I guess that were two questions, right? I think so. I guess the first one, what would I have done differently? Like I guess I think back then during my time, LinkedIn didn't exist, so it was really hard to go out there and meet folks. So a lot of things that I learned about the upcoming technology were very much reference to the more developed countries like US, where definitely things were more mature, right, compared to Indonesia. So like I guess like it would be nice if back then I actually proactively take much more efforts to try and understand the industry, the trends, and hopefully pick up like a solid, I would say a tangible hard skills like programming and whatever not that would probably help a lot more with regards to joining the industry. But I wouldn't say it hinders anything, to be honest. Like I think like you mentioned earlier, right? I think career wise in fintech it doesn't have to be linear. Doesn't mean you have to major in one to be able to enter the industry. So I would still say it's a nice to have, like nice to have if I would have done it differently, but I don't think like it's a major blocker for anyone to want to enter the industry.
Cool. Well, maybe untuk Fandi, kayak you help your founders a lot kan. You're probably pretty hands-on with your founders. Terus misalnya your founders yang, and you guys invest in a lot of tech companies which are fintech gitu. Misalnya when your founders are looking for talents, itu biasanya kayak kriterianya kayak gimana sih rata-rata gitu. Kayak do they have to be, certain ways, certain qualities, characteristics kayak gitu.
I guess from a characteristic standpoint, they just have to be like have a high willingness to learn and have a just being coachable, right? I think characteristic is everything. Especially for fresh graduates, I'll say, because a lot of the a lot of the skills that's actually applicable day to day is very different, and it's very you can learn it on the job. And if you're a fast learner, it will not take very long to learn. And also, for example, like next year, I think we're gonna be expanding our team, um, and I think the characteristic and the willingness to learn will be way more important than whatever they have done in the past.
Okay, so maybe this is apa namanya? Siapa tahu ada penonton di rumah yang currently are interviewing ya with some fintech companies atau a fintech role. Do you have any tips kayak what questions should they ask to their employer? Tanya apa ya kira-kira? I have one ya, I think ya, because I think it's untuk ngebedain tahu caranya startup mana yang bakal cocok with you or not gitu ya, overall and maybe in fintech. Apalagi untuk fintech ya. Biasanya I think one thing to ask adalah what's their monetization strategy? Because like with the current market kan itu kayak I think investors now focus more on like growth, sustainability, no sustainable growth and less like subsidized growth gitu kan. Jadi I think that's important gitu. Tapi maybe from you kan you've been hiring a lot, like spending your team as well. Like what questions you get asked gitu by your potential employees?
Actually, I just got asked a very interesting question today. He was asking me, like a candidate was asking me, what would you not miss if you have to leave the company tomorrow? Like, what would you? I mean, like, I get the essence of the question. Essentially, he was trying to understand the culture, right? Like, or what is it? Like, I guess it's my pet peeve with the company, right? And yeah, I didn't have a good answer because I've never thought about that question, to be honest. So that was like a tough question, but I guess it gives you perspective with regards to culture fit of a company you were about to join. Of course, the somebody with who is more like intellectually curious, they would always ask the monetization question. I think that's question number one. I think question number two is always the culture fit question. They would ask it in various form, but the one I shared earlier was probably one of the hardest question I've ever had asked by a candidate.
What would you not miss? Okay, okay, that's very interesting. So, if I may ask, like, what type of role is that candidate applying for?
Data analyst actually, so something very technical, very logical. But he was actually carrying. I mean, as a early stage startup, anyone we bring on board will become our family, and so like I guess it's also important that the team member actually cares about what the company culture is like.
Maybe from Fandi.
I guess what is your expected salary? Probably. Just kidding, just kidding.
Ini yang apply yang nanya employernya,
Okay.
not the other way around.
Oh, okay. Employee. Haven't really met many that ask any particular question, I guess. I
Say you're
think,
hiring an associate,
yeah,
and like they would ask you stuff, right?
yeah.
Like I don't know, like what's the working hours? Do you reply emails at 4 a.m.? Like do you work on the weekends?
Yeah,
Like culture questions.
culture. Well, those kind of questions, yeah. But I guess yeah. What I mean, I guess do you reply emails at midnight? I mean, that kind of stuff I receive actually not only from potential employees, that I receive from like people that I invest in as well. Yeah.
All right, cool, cool. So any, does education background matter then? Or like does degree matter even? Or certifications or, bisa kayak dipukul rata nggak? Atau kayak, oh it really differs, greatly depending on the roles gitu apa gimana? Maybe Agnes dulu.
I guess aptitude matters more to me than pedigree because I mean at the end of the day, there's so much you will learn in school today. Like if someone is totally driven, they can easily go on Coursera or like whatever, right? Like there's a lot of resources online. Picking up a new skills isn't like going to school, like taking a degree at school anymore, right? So I think aptitude matters more to me. Like as long as they are able to do the basic and like Pandi mentioned, as long as they are coachable and have high intellectual curiosity, they will figure things out. So I generally don't look at education background anymore. anymore.
Actually, now that you mention, I mean, it depends on yeah, I mean, education wouldn't matter as much. It's actually like the kind of questions they ask now. Going back to the previous question, if they're very interested in the industry, they will actually be fast learners, right? So that's more important. And also another reason why I guess backgrounds don't really matter. Well, it matters to a certain extent, just to be realistic. But obviously, my co-founders, not my founders, Edward and James, don't really come from Ivy League backgrounds. They they came from I would say mid-tier schools in the U.S. and they have really done well for themselves. So I mean they've shown that education matters, but it's not everything.
Yeah, I think I also agree to that, right? I've seen folks that didn't complete their, degree, like university degree or like stuff like that, but they end up like building a lot of very useful stuff. And like if you can see, it's like benchmarking like things in the U.S. as well, like a lot of dropouts, ended up like founding companies or building stuff and selling. So benar-benar apa ya? I think this type of this world not just fintech ya, tapi overall sekarang kayak limitnya tuh jadi benar-benar udah nggak ada lagi gitu ya. It's not like oh you have to have S1, S2 certification A, B, C. Maybe if you're in say risk harus ya harus you take apa tuh namanya BSMR ya or like whatever certification. If you you need to take like the ISO certification, but that's like part of the that's something that can be learned. It doesn't have to be like you don't have to study 10 years to obtain that gitu ya. Um, maybe my next question is um, in terms of trends gitu ya. Kayak are there like specific roles di fintech yang demand-nya bakal grow banget in the next few years? Terus subsequent to that is that ada nggak role yang justru nanti demand-nya bakal diminish gitu from your perspective? It doesn't have to cover the whole industry, but maybe like oh, I can speak for this small subset of the industry.
Well, for venture capital, definitely like I think like there will be a lot more entry level positions that's out there, and there will be a lot more country hits just because there's a lot of funds coming into Southeast Asia, and Indonesia represents 40% of Southeast Asia's digital economy. So a lot more investments are going to happen, I feel, in the next few years, and a lot more like regional global funds coming in.
Got it. What about from you, Agnes?
Like I guess looking at the trends, like the more global trends, AI will be like the most in demand, right? Like there's a lot of upcoming industries. In blockchain, Web 2, Web 3, I think it's the same. Like AI is like I feel like it's the next big thing, given all the trends that we have seen so far. Uh, no, but don't quote me on it. Like just, uh, and then what will diminish? I guess I'm not sure, to be honest, because I think the industry on its own it's growing. So I
Mhm.
guess they will be able to hire people of different backgrounds. But I'm quite bullish on the industry personally.
Ya, tapi mungkin kayak ada juga say like with OCR for example and with automated KYC,
Yeah.
like roles like that yang mungkin kayak tugasnya analisis dokumen cuman memastikan bahwa A is A and B is B itu mungkin bisa bakal berkurang gitu ya. So like essentially uh, if I could just summarize on what you just said, role-role yang bakal grow adalah role-role yang dimana itu takes like a lot of judgment and critical thinking and problem solving gitu kan. Because the problems that we're facing today at work itu kayak udah jauh lebih kompleks gitu ya. It's not like oh there's the answer for this type of problem on some book gitu ya. Okay, so maybe we can now go to the Mentimeter to see what type of questions we get so far. So then the audience at home can scan this barcode um, and then fill out the questionnaire. Uh, do we already have some questions in? Okay. Okay, perhaps like let's go to the questions. Oh, let's see. So these are so far like what the answers are in. Okay, there's law, communication, business, social politics. So very different fields and backgrounds, yeah. Ada finance juga. Okay, perhaps we can move to the next question. Oh, ada psychology. Okay. Where are fintech companies you know? I would bet like they would mention all the uh consumer facing ones, yeah. Like OVO, GoPay, Shopee Pay, Dana, Linkaja, and then Gojek. Well, Gojek, I guess, is fintech. Okay, with Bibit, with Indodax. Padahal banyak banget apa namanya B2B companies juga yang orang nggak tahu ya, tapi they invest a lot. They they're very prevalent juga gitu. Pintu, Binance, Indodax. Cool. Pesan sponsor. Link aja, yes. Binance, Reku, Bareksa. Maybe let me like touch upon this a little bit ke Fandi gitu ya. Now that like I think the past 5 years the B2C uh, fintech gitu itu kan has grown so much. What type of trends sih do you see kayak di Indonesia like more specific to fintech gitu kayak on the industry that will thrive the next maybe 2-3 years? Siapa tahu bisa ada tips kayak ini loh company-company yang kemungkinan bakal grow tuh yang kira-kira seperti ini kayak gitu.
In terms of fintech, I think there's a lot of regulations here now that's limiting a lot of companies. Um, I well, I think
But limitations create opportunities.
yes, limitations create a lot of opportunities, but I guess the ones that will, I guess the trend, there's, for example, right now I think a trend about and something in the fintech industry I think that's pretty hot right now is I would say is the prop tech space, financing, mortgages.
Prop tech ya.
Yeah, I don't know. Um, I think it's a huge problem, and I think there's a lot of issues with the transparency
Mhm.
in terms of the how manual everything is in terms of getting mortgages. I do think there's a lot of great founders that's trying to tackle the space.
Mhm.
I think one of them will definitely be able to solve it.
Mhm.
But I think that's a very interesting space for me to see, just because, yeah, obviously I know people that are I have friends that are developers that's
Mhm.
encountering that issue.
I see, I see. So maybe we still have some questions remaining on the Mentimeter. What do you want to know about starting your career in the fintech industry? We also have some questions in from Twitter, Zoom, and Instagram. Salary. Salary, I think there's actually a couple of websites that provide that data kan. Ada Glassdoor, ada apa satu lagi? Eh ada kok pokoknya yang but you have to pay for it. You have to contribute some inputs, some entries, then you can get some data in return. Because the salary, unspoken, unwritten requirements, background, stability against layoffs. These are very good questions actually, which are obviously tough in general, right? Experience, tenure. So maybe in terms of type of work kali atau type of employment itu nggak cuma di fintech ya, tapi generally ada di banyak companies juga. Itu misalnya ada full time, ada part time, ada contract, ada outsource, I guess intern juga gitu. Jadi itu sih. Hmm, protection against layoffs, I guess in general try to be as apa ya, as indispensable as possible kali ya. Jadi um, you know, uh, I think not just in fintech, tapi generally in all type of industries. If it's a matter of like all companies are trying to be sustainable and profitable. Period. Right? Like no companies are, I think, have other type of goals. Probably if it's an impact like focus company mungkin agak beda. Tapi rata-rata kan company pasti pengennya profitable. Um, so apalagi tadi dari yang they want to know the salary, I think you guys can um, browse online, and also I think there's some research done by some HR companies, um, like maybe Robert Walters and to name a few, yang provide this type of data. Maybe sekarang kita bisa go to the questions yang dari Instagram. Okay. Uh, oh, sorry. I think I opened the wrong sheet. But probably right now, like, do you have any other comments or from like what you've seen on the Mentimeter about like what folks here are like curious about?
I just think like just now, as you can see, even fintech is part of everything. Yeah, even Gojek has fintech. Um, Garena used to be a gaming company, has fintech incorporated to it. So I think fintech is related to every kind of industry.
Right. Terus I think tadi you mention PropTech ya. Jadi mungkin buat teman-teman di sini yang kayak ini kan kayak jargon-jargon founder sama investor kali ya. Tapi maybe for folks that yang baru tahu istilah PropTech itu apa. Prop itu properti, tech itu teknologi gitu. Dan kenapa PropTech itu sekarang yang barusan tadi Fandi bilang jadi sektor yang lumayan akan booming, karena banyak PropTech itu yang tujuannya ingin mempermudah akses terhadap uh, kepemilikan rumah untuk apa ya, early home owners kali ya, first time home owners gitu yang pengen beli rumah, pengen beli apartemen, pengen beli tempat tinggal. Dan bisnis modelnya juga cukup banyak ya. Ada yang rent to own, ada yang apa sekarang ada fragmented ownership yang kayak gitu-gitu kan. Jadi banyak banget tipe-tipe apa model bisnisnya. Dan mungkin to name a few companies nggak apa-apa kali ya. Mungkin kita bisa sebut kayak salah satunya mungkin ada Pinhome, right? Ada Ringkas, Ideal, ya ada beberapa lah yang apa namanya yang sekarang lagi banyak berkembang. Dan kenapa jadi penting karena I think home ownership itu kan kalau di Indonesia atau di banyak negara juga lah jadi sesuatu yang uh, everyone wants gitu kan, pengen punya rumah, pengen punya tempat tinggal dan mindsetnya masih kayak uh, lebih baik punya rumah gitu daripada enggak gitu kan. So I think given the population, given the characteristics of the population, uh, dan historically biasanya kalau KPR KPA itu kan kalau dia nggak punya slip gaji, dia nggak punya record apa yang baik di bank atau namanya kredit history gitu kan, itu akan susah gitu. Jadi sekarang pada intinya startup-startup yang tadi barusan kita obrolin itu yang mungkin bisa bantu ke depannya untuk meningkatkan home ownership rate sih gitu. Any other sector that maybe bisa jadi input insights buat teman-teman juga other than PropTech? Apa ya?
Well, something related that will be that was hot as well was construction tech as well, but yeah, construction and then everything is related to fintech, right? Construction tech. Sometimes one of the edge of the company is the cost of capital because they give financing and so on and so forth. Yeah.
Oke, ini ada pertanyaan sih. Boleh dijelasin nggak bedanya B2B sama B2C itu apa? Maybe Agnes wants to take a stab at this one.
So I guess B2B stands for business to business. So anything that like whose stakeholders are SMEs, businesses of different sizes, mostly I would say deal with larger numbers than compared to B2C, which is business to consumers. I mean B2C brands are usually more well known because they are consumer facing. They are typically like the OVO, GoPay, and the likes. And but I guess they are each solving for very different problems. Like I think B2C focus more on, like the daily use cases, the convenience behind it. Whereas B2B is mostly, I would say convenience also, but mostly on the flow, right? The flow which is super complex, especially if they are cross border as well. So I guess that's my step at it. But I guess not you can talk more about it even you're from B2B.
Ya mungkin buat penonton yang belum banyak familiar sama Wish atau sama Durian Pay, kalau Wish itu kalau lebih is essentially B2C app. Jadi Wish itu ini I'm trying to explain your ini ya. Wish itu punya dua interface. Jadi aplikasi untuk orang tua dan aplikasi untuk anak-anaknya. Jadi misalnya kalau sekarang orang tua mau kasih anaknya jajan itu kan di cash ya atau mungkin sekarang pakai itu apa flash ya. Tapi kan dengan pakai flash itu kan orang tuanya nggak bakal tahu ini anak beli makanan, beli apa atau beli beli mainan kan nggak tahu gitu. The point of Wish adalah misalnya anaknya nanti dikasih alokasi, oke uang jajan misalnya 10.000 sehari gitu ya. Nanti bisa bayarnya pakai aplikasinya Wish, nanti orang tuanya dapat laporan, oke jadi transaksinya tuh dibuat ini, tadi beli ini, beli itu. Dan misalnya nanti orang tuanya kayak mau kasih semacam reward gitu ya. Oke, if you clean up your bed, if you like make after your bed, if you like clean up some blah blah blah, if you study more, I'm gonna give you more gitu. Jadi anak kalau misalnya dikasih istilahnya instant gratification kali ya, itu mungkin bakal lebih termotivasi. So I think that's the apa ya ininya model bisnisnya B2C. Kalau Durian Pay sendiri mungkin banyak yang familiar sama istilah payment gateway gitu kan ya. Dan kalau trennya lagi-lagi di Amerika atau di negara-negara barat itu B2B companies, B2B payments company itu jadi cukup krusial karena memfasilitasi istilahnya lalu lintas commerce atau perdagangan, lalu lintas uang antar perusahaan atau antar pihak-pihak di dalam suatu negara dan bahkan juga bisa di negara lain. Contoh misalnya ya ada apa ya di Indonesia e-fishery deh. E-fishery melakukan ekspor ke Jepang, ke mana ke Amerika gitu, ke New York, kemana segala macam. Dia kan pasti dapat uangnya dari negara-negara itu gitu kan. Di dalam negeri sendiri juga pasti fishery banyak melakukan misalnya ya transaksi jual beli ikan, udang segala macam. Jadi disinilah perannya payments yang mungkin orang-orang nggak banyak tahu karena terjadinya di belakang layar gitu. Even misalnya how we disburse salaries gitu kan. Kadang kita bisa pakai enterprise banking system. Tapi misalnya enterprise banking system itu kalau misalnya transfer ke bank lain kan kena charge tuh 6.500. Nah, kalau misalnya B2B payments company mungkin bisa lebih rendah dari itu fee-nya. Kayak gitu sih. So, yes, I think some things that mungkin kalau karena I think that time is up sebelum kita bisa ambil apa namanya Q&A from the floor here. To summarize, I think tadi ada pertanyaan apa unwritten requirements untuk kayak kerja di fintech. I think harus apa tadi Fandi harus curious, critical, harus hustle ya. Harus hustle,
Yes.
apalagi tuh. Terus harus willing to learn and mungkin ability to adapt kali ya. Karena mungkin a lot of fresh grads atau early job seekers itu mungkin juga apa ya, I think I can empathize juga lah. Mungkin nggak semua orang paham dan tahu kalau actually, especially for early stage companies, directions change and focus change, bets change a lot gitu kan. Nggak usah buat yang small, yang gede aja I think what we've been witnessing juga mereka banyak ganti direction segala macam gitu ya. Jadi I guess just try to educate yourself and try to be informed on what's happening in the market and what's happening around the world. Jadi kayak biar bisa tahu kayak impact-impactnya gitu. Misalnya sama kayak platform investasi, kita cari tahu dulu gitu ya, apakah terdaftar di OJK lah, Bapepti lah, apa. Jadi jangan asal misalnya naruh uang. Jadi maybe we start from that lah. Jadi sebelum masuk perusahaan fintech, pastikan literasi finansialnya tinggi. mungkin itu kali ya. So I guess next we can start taking questions from the audience. Ada yang bisa pass on the mic mungkin? Mic-nya mungkin ada yang mau tanya, ada yang mau angkat tangan. Jangan malu-malu.
Hello? I have a question. Fintech is a very technical uh, industry. So how do you build that expertise as a a um, new joiner to the industry?
Good question. Probably I can start answering from my personal experience, and then you can also share yours. Um, you're right. I think fintech is such a loaded term, right? It encompasses, a lot of sectors in the, market, from banking, payments, investment, etc. My take on this is to, when you start at a company, at any fintech company, you start with a specific role which scope is usually quite narrow. So then you don't necessarily have to know like 1,000 things. You just need to know, say, like 10 or 15 things, and you need to make sure that you do these things well, very, very well. Then bisa abis itu uh, melakukan hal-hal yang lain gitu. Jadi misalnya kayak oke, kayaknya udah pengalaman 3-6 bulan nih ngerjain ini, kayaknya I can do this ya. Kalau misalnya mau belajar hal lain lagi, mungkin you can talk to your direct manager atau apa untuk kayak, "Oh, bisa nggak ya, can I do like this adjacent role, adjacent workload atau apa?" Uh, I think that in general. Then I think in terms of role mobility, we haven't discussed this actually. Role mobility, I think we've seen this a lot ya di fintech. Kayak ada orang yang awalnya data analyst nanti jadi product manager. Ada orang yang sebelumnya jadi front end engineer jadi something else gitu. Ada orang yang misalnya jadi maybe one of the most notorious case on this is actually Melisanya Tokopedia. She was actually in the finance department, and she was, I think, a manager or something, right? Finance manager. Terus kayak tiba-tiba bisa, bukan tiba-tiba lah. I mean, over time, then she became COO of Tokopedia. Jadi ini one, I think, example of how uh, kita, kalau I think generally di tech industry, di fintech, kita nggak bener-bener apa ya, culture-nya I would say merit based. So a lot of meritocracy in place. Karena kan memang ya namanya startup, fintech tapi tidak harus startup ya. Jadi misalnya banyak juga fintech yang bukan startup, dan di situ mungkin agak ada banyak, mungkin ada sedikit banyak perbedaan lah. Contohnya fintech yang bukan startup, Blue by BCA, ya itu fintech bukan startup. Genius, I guess, ya Alobang, ya adalah beberapa fintech yang bukan startup. Kalau ditanya bedanya apa, well, essentially companies itu kan butuh uang untuk beroperasi. Dia butuh uangnya itu dapatnya dari mana? Bisa dapat dari investor, kalau dia misalnya sudah listed di IDX atau di stock market negara lain, dia dapat uangnya dari stock market, atau misalnya dia dapat uang dari private investor gitu kan. Atau misalnya dari operational profit, which is such a rare thing in early startups. Nah, jadi ya intinya karena shareholder-nya intinya berbeda-beda, jadi juga apa ya istilahnya, uh, tipe tekanan atau tipe workload-nya I think varies greatly due to that, gitu. Terus, yeah, I think I can just, apa namanya, that's from me. Maybe Agnes sama Fandi bisa kasih more inputs about apa sih yang kayak as a new joiner tuh kayak what do you need to know first gitu, awal-awalnya.
I guess to add on, yeah, I think whatever Natasha you mentioned is super relevant. I think if you are brought on to the team to do one job, do that job well first, and then beyond that, right? I think the direction we always have to go for is how do we make ourselves indispensable, right? That being said, I do think that startups, at least fintechs, tend to be always evolving. We follow industry trends, we follow the consumer needs, and that's like, and that's change. That the startup strategy will change, right? So I think it's, if you, like if any team member is able to have that foresight, but be it through research online, speaking to a lot more consumers, I think that will give them like a heads up, I guess, with regards to contribution to the team, right? Like they are able to contribute more in their capacity, more than whatever they are brought on for. So I guess that's
Well, I guess for me, when I first started out, I just look at a lot of balance sheets, and I basically just
Sounds
continue.
fun.
Yeah, well, continuously just look over it, and because there will, I mean, to the point where you kind of have to look at all kinds of balance sheets, and you have to look at the cash flow statements and realize that everything is very interconnected. So like you guys both mentioned, just be really good at it. I'm still pretty bad at it, but yeah, I'm still trying to improve day by day as well. So takes time.
Alright, so maybe right now ada beberapa pertanyaan dari Instagram yang kita bisa address here. Bagaimana memulai karir di fintech? Well, I guess you need to start somewhere. Uh, Maybe I can share this a little bit about me gitu ya. Before I was in fintech, I actually worked in the public sector. And when I did this pivot, obviously it was not easy. I applied to, I think, almost 60 companies, 60, not 16, 60. Um, I think I went through 15-ish interviews, both in the US and here, Singapore and Indo. And it was definitely very tough. I used to like, it was super stressful and super, because you're like, what do I need to know? What am I missing? How do I catch up with my peers that have been doing this, or like my peers who are at BCG, McKinsey, Bain, blah, 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 for the past uh, 4 or 5 years gitu. Yeah, so how did I make up for it? Essentially by reading a lot, learning a lot, asking a lot of people in the industry, coming to events like this hopefully helps. Sekarang I think makin banyak info session juga ya. I think info sessions, um, a lot of fintech companies juga sekarang udah datang ke career fairs di kampus-kampus gitu kan. Jadi maybe start from there, apply from LinkedIn, apply from Tech in Asia. Jadi banyak ya cara memulai karir gitu sih. Bahkan ada juga I think yang part time gitu kan. Say like if you're good at I don't know like design or like even maybe growth marketing, itu kan kerjanya kayak uh, growth marketing itu kan kerjanya sih kayak they have to strategize untuk ningkatin conversion dari user atau misalnya ningkatin apa ya engagement itu brand ya, metricsnya brand ya. Lu yang orang marketing.
I guess growth is slightly more technical. Like we tend to bring on folks who are more analytical and super keen on experimentation, like just running different campaigns or different product flows to just get people started. I think, but to your point, right? Like if anyone would want to enter the fintech industry, I think this sector is definitely still hiring. I mean, like, at least the smaller stage ones are still hiring. And there are a lot of entry points, full time, startup, part time, and there are a lot of skill sets that probably most of you guys have, and it's applicable, right? Like I posture design, I get a lot of students still who are still designing for us, right? For our marketing team. Uh, Analytics is also something anyone passionate about data is actually able to do the job. So I think just keep a lookout on those roles where you probably can add value, be it from knowledge you have gained via school or like co- online courses, or just something you are deeply passionate about and have researched so much about it that you are able to add value, right?
Ada juga pertanyaan, Kak, aku pengen banget memulai karir di fintech tapi nggak ada background finance. Gimana ya? Well, I also don't have a finance background. You do?
I did economics, so
You
somewhat
did
related.
somewhat finance. You did finance. Tapi banyak kok orang di fintech yang nggak dari finance ya. I think kayak tadi kita juga udah cover juga kan. So like there's a lot of roles within fintech kayak dari design, lah, data, analytics, growth marketing, KYC, risk gitu. Jadi don't get discouraged. Banyak role-role yang apa namanya bisa dieksplor gitu. Even like for the people department, right, which is also very very important. Um, kenapa penting? Karena kayak misalnya people departmentnya nggak agile atau kayak nggak people, maksudnya HR ya, human resources, kan harus misalnya dari manajernya atau employernya kayak oke, we want person yang gini 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 gini. Kan mereka harus kayak benar-benar tahu tuh, ya kan? They need to really able to like translate qualification-nya apa yang bisa translate tuh orang yang qualify for the job gitu. Jadi itu juga penting ya. Nggak bisa kayak sekarang untuk HR tuh udah nggak ada guidance yang kayak iya, very straightforward. Oh, kalau kita butuh orang di finance operations, background-nya harus ini. enggak gitu. Jadi uh, well again I think start somewhere. Don't get discouraged despite your background. Kayak I mean to be honest for us these days we don't even ask about degrees like at all. Um, we don't ask about degrees, and actually I think we've converted interns into full timers upon they graduate or even before they graduate. Jadi it's a generally it's a very merit based industry. Maybe Fandi wants to add something on this.
Well, I guess I came from and I majored in psychology as well. So I guess I got into this industry because of self deduction. The first time I invested was my first experience investing was in capital markets. Obviously, at that time there was a lot of I guess FOMO investing, so I didn't know like the fundamentals of finance.
Here or in the US?
Um, Both, I guess. So there's a couple of first times where yeah, I had a bad experience.
How did you find out kayak which stock to invest in at the time? What did you learn? What was your source of
My source,
learning?
social media. So that was bad. So no, eventually, right? I self-taught myself, and as I mentioned earlier, I just met a lot of people. I wanted to learn how to really invest. So that was when I really, um, obviously, learn of all the unit economics, gross margins, price to book value, price to earnings, all the basic stuff, basically. And so now, when the stock goes up or go down, or obviously now we're in a bear market. If we invest in like fundamentally solid company, I think there's nothing to worry, because I think they will persevere through the bear market, and they will come out stronger during the bull market when the cycle comes back.
So I guess experience is one of the best teachers, right?
Yep.
I think another question here is that so in general, apakah karir di fintech itu masih promising? Well, I think we covered this tadi in the beginning ya. Mungkin joinnya tadi di tengah-tengah. Um, as Pandi and Agnes tadi udah pointed out, karir di fintech ini kayak sekarang tuh baru kayak apa ya? Fintech in general tuh baru barely scratching the surface kan. Uh, Maksudnya gimana? Kayak say 5-6 years ago pengguna uang elektronik cuman maybe nggak nyampe 5.000, sekarang udah maybe 15 juta, around there ya, universe-nya mungkin 15 jutaan. Terus sekarang udah bisa belanja pakai well maybe kayak udah nggak perlu apa udah touchless gitu ya, bisa kayak you can have like your wallet from your phone, stuff like that, bisa transact di mana-mana kapanpun. So these trends are definitely showing some promises. Penetrasinya juga I think in general from lending to payments udah masuk ke tier tier 3, tier 4 ya, city kali ya. So maybe they don't have bank account tapi mereka mungkin aja bisa dapat account Shopee Pay Later atau account Kredivo gitu kan. So to shop at these platforms. So I think in general still quite promising. It's just like just mungkin try to be adaptive aja kali ya to the roles that are available. Siapa tahu ada role-role yang sekarang don't exist yet but will exist in the future. For example, right? Okay, so probably we can have some closing statement from like probably each of you, maybe some tips or tricks or like from the audience for the audience at home and here about career in fintech in general.
I guess never stop. Just I guess never stop learning, and don't give up and don't limit yourself, because I think there's a lot of possibilities in fintech. I think as we mentioned earlier, like everything we do is related to fintech in general, from lending, payment, investments. So I think being exposed to fintech, a career in fintech is limitless.
I guess it's similar, like earlier mentioned. Fintech is super broad with regards to the coverage and with regards to penetration, I genuinely believe that we are scratching the surface in Indonesia, especially. So I think the industry will continue to grow. I think there are a lot of avenues by which you can kickstart your career. Of course, like one, just look up for resources online. But secondly, I think people are a lot nicer than you think. Like so, if you are curious about somebody's career history, especially in fintech, just hit them up on LinkedIn. Ask for a 15 minutes coffee chat. Most of the time, like people will say yes, like people are genuinely nice. So, learning from others will probably give you like a better glimpse with regards to the career, right?
Probably also some reading materials to read or to follow, some blogs or social media accounts to follow buat tahu lebih banyak tentang fintech. Any tips? Probably Psychology of Money. That's a good one, right? It's a good book.
I guess given my background, I read a lot more growth related books. So I like Sean Ellis is probably one author that I follow. With regards to growth strategies, just hacking things. Kita TL 0 to 1. Uh, and then the hard things, but what was the title? the the hard things about building. Okay, forget it.
Yeah.
uh, and then like blogs. I think I keep up with the industry trends in general. So Tech in Asia, TechCrunch is something I read on a daily basis.
Well, I guess for me, why I started investing was because I watched this movie, The Big Short,
Uh,
right? So I wanted to be like the guy, obviously, who just went to work in shorts and made a big bet that no one else ever thought of, right? Obviously, obviously still trying to do it till today. Yeah, that's what inspired me.
Shorting is not allowed here, right? Not
Not
yet.
allowed,
investing
Not
but
yet.
just in general, like for example, investing in a company, right? That no one thought. I think there's a lot, as mentioned, there's a lot of FOMO investments going around, and investing, and the most rewarding feeling as an investor, I feel, is investing in a company that no one thought of investing, believing in that particular founder from day one. Yeah.
Cool. Well, I guess I follow this um, like newsletter called The Hustle. It's it's free, I think, but they do have more premium content, and you need to pay for that. But I've been following it since like I think 2015, 2016. So it gives you like it's pretty similar to Short Squeeze. If you they also have an Instagram account, but their newsletter is also quite insightful. So you know what's happening, trends around the world. Kalau di Indonesia banyak juga sih ya. I think fintech, I guess, like Tech in Asia or like one of the more some other like meme accounts, that you learn from. So yeah, generally like a lot of avenues to learn. Mungkin mau ada pertanyaan lagi dari audiens di sini. Belum kita tutup. Okay, kalau udah nggak ada, so I guess we can close this this event. Thank you so much for folks that are watching from home. Thanks for being here. And if you're still curious about like current in fintech, please, as Agnes said, hit us up or like follow like all these medias that like we mentioned during the talk. And good luck for your career search.
Thank you so much for the insightful discussion. Earlier this event, we had a question of the day. The question was an area in South San Francisco that is home to dozens of major technology companies is called, and the answer is B, Silicon Valley. Shout out to Yuri Modi from Instagram for answering correctly. Now, if you have any idea that you would like to have on our states in America, feel free to submit your proposals on our website at www.adamerica.or.id. Select create a program and go to collaborate with us. All the event proposal will be reviewed and your event might be reviewed here soon. Or you can also check out our website to get newsletter to get weekly event updates. We're also on social media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at AT America. You can get fun content, giveaways, and so much more. Also subscribe to our YouTube channel. Again, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been fun. Unfortunately, we have to say goodbye. My name is Aninda, and see you next time. Bye bye.